The idea of working with people who are mediators and who have begun to struggle with the idea that you are not perfect is exactly where the best learning takes place. Years ago, I was working at Cornell University. You had all of these brand new physicians. They have passed all of their tests. The dean of the School of Medicine, it's his time to address them. And he tells the new graduates to turn to one another, to the person next to you and the next person, and to shake that person's hand and congratulate him or her. And tell them this sentence: you will never be so confident about your skills as a physician as you are now. I go back to my role with the Mediators Beyond Borders. One of our responsibilities to the groups that we work with is that we promise that we will only bring in mediators that we have graded as adequate and good. And so when we do that vetting, we have to be able to look not just at the numbers, okay? We need to understand the essence, what's inside that individual, and how does that person define success and failure. The discussions I am looking for that are richer are the ones that describe what went wrong rather than what went right. One of the things that we have to grapple with immediately when we begin to talk about mediation and the idea of attraction and resistance, or opposition between two concepts, we have to stop and think, how do we go about training mediators? Because how we do it and the manner reflects on our understanding of our responsibility to the profession of mediators around the world. In an organization where I taught, for instance, the University of Minnesota, I said to everybody at the very beginning, we will train everybody. And then there will come a time when we will make judgments as to who goes forward and who does not. And so when we would do this, I would have the opportunity to be able to speak to people who were in their own positions very high in the organization. And I would have to tell them, you know, you shouldn't mediate. And there was no relationship between how old they were, how many degrees they had, what gender they were. No, it was, I had to say no to vice presidents of the university. We did a training, a weeks-long training in Switzerland. What I asked them to do is, please rate from 1 to 12 the mediators that you were trained with, according to this question. If you needed a mediator, if you were in a dispute and you were looking for a mediator, who is it that you would want to mediate that mediation? And who's the first, who's the second, who's the third? And don't put yourself in there, obviously, but make that list. The night before, I made my list. I said, okay, out of these 12 people, who would I really want? And I went boom, 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 right down to the end. And so what I was able to do is take all this wonderful feedback from my 12 students, and compare it against my judgment after a week of training, okay? And then was to find out how close was my judgment, perceiving them as a teacher, with their judgment as being colleagues in the class. I was astounded. It was like a bad statistic, because if your statistics are too good, people are suspicious of it, that you are not doing it correctly. But I was almost exactly the same as the students. The reason why I'm saying this is that my responsibility as a professional mediator, taking on the responsibility of teaching mediators, is that I don't have the choice to simply teach and then not direct. All right? I have to make judgments. These were people who were going into the EU Parliament from their various countries. I took my responsibility seriously that they need to question their own sense of how confident they are in their skills. I raise that point because I recognize that the people in this room are teachers as well. We all are in some regard, huh? We are all teachers. We have to question to what degree are we taking on our responsibility of protecting our culture. Because the attraction is what? Money. I want more people to train because I make more money. And the opposition to that seduction of money is precisely the protection that we need to make for our own good for the profession of mediating.